Hey guys, thanks for listening to Fall Obsession Podcast. This episode is brought to you guys in partnership with Hoot Camo, Bear River Archery, Tacticam Reveal, and the Outdoor Call radio app. If you guys want to get some discount codes these partners have set up for our Fall Obsession Podcast listeners, then I encourage you to go to the episode description wherever you are streaming from, and you will find some discount codes listed there where you can save some money with those partners that I named. Be sure that you guys are following our show on whatever app you're streaming on, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and give us a like on all of our social media pages. We always appreciate you guys showing us support through that. My name is Sam Thrash, and I'm your show host over here. My guest this week is a man named Brandt Buchanan. A few weeks ago, I put out a podcast episode where I shed some light on some controversial perspectives pertaining to mountain lion hunting in Texas and some things going on within the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. And following that episode, Brandt reached out to me and gave me some of his perspective as somebody who has been very passionately involved and on the front lines of the mountain lion scene in the state of Texas. I invited him to come on the show and share those thoughts with you guys. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. You are listening to another Fall Obsession podcast.
The power lies within that middle ground.
Hunting transformed my life.
I think you have to be built somewhat different.
That Dale Brisby's a super puncher.
We need to get Pop-Tarts on the next Walmart order. I'm serious.
Because to come into this country and stay dedicated to that, it was pretty awesome.
If it's only for one, then you've done your job.
We have to do what's right for the wildlife, and that's our responsibility as hunters.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to another Fall Obsession Podcast episode. My name is Sam Thrash. I'm your host over here. And this week, my guest is a first-timer on our show. He's very passionate about mountain lions in the state of Texas. That's been his wheelhouse in many ways, and we're going to get into that. But Brandt Buchanan, welcome to Fall Obsession Podcast, sir. Happy to have you.
Thanks for having me.
I'm honored, man. I'm excited, and I'll give our listeners a little bit of background on somewhat how this episode came to be, because I put out an episode a few weeks ago talking about just some topics and discussions surrounding Texas Parks and Wildlife, mountain lions in Texas, and you reached out to me after that and just shot me a quick message on social media saying, "Hey, here's my number. Call me about mountain lions," and that led to us having a discussion and led to this episode ultimately because you had a very educated perspective, in my opinion, and something that I think that is something everybody needs to hear and everybody needs to know about. So I am grateful that you sent me that message, and like I told you on the phone the other day, I'm never above being corrected or further educated on my own show even. So there's a lot of information out there, a lot of misinformation out there, and I think it's important to have educated people like yourself on the show at the right time to spread the right message to folks. So,
well, I've got a habit of cold calling strangers about wildlife issues, so it's no news to those who know me.
Fair enough. So, just to kick us off and to get the discussion going, for our listeners who have never heard your name before, they might not know who you are. Just tell them where you're coming from and how you got involved with mountain lions in the state of Texas.
So to start at the beginning, you said who I am, where I'm from. So, I run, about 100,000 acres of ranches out here in Presidio County, just north of Big Bend Ranch State Park, south of Marfa. We run a cattle and hunting operation, Herefords, and our bread and butter is aoudad, and we also hunt mule deer and elk and maybe lions, hopefully soon, if we can start catching them consistently. But I went to my undergrad at Sul State University, studied conservation biology there in Alpine. So that's a little of my background. So Sul Ross is back at 28 years old, kind of a late return to college. I was a con bio major, so I was under Dr. Patricia Harvison, and president of the Conservation Biology Club and officer of Range and Wildlife Club. And at that time, I was also serving on the executive committee of the Lone Star Chapter Sierra Club, who I got involved with through a pipeline type thing.
Mm-hmm.
So how mountain lions got on my plate is the fellow that nominated me to the Sierra Club board came to me one day. He says, I talked to this trapper. He said he killed 70 lions last year. That sounds like a lot. Is that a problem? Well, you should be asking the right person. Let me go find out. Go to Dr. Arvison, and we talked about genetic diversity and sink and source populations. And I said, well, I mean, it seems like there might be. We talked about trappers trapping along distribution corridors between those populations. Genetic diversity. I said, well, it seems like something we ought to at least have some strategy to monitor. But it was a contentious issue. I was always told, like, oh, it's so contentious and yada yada. And I'm used to contentious stuff. So getting on a ranch and dealing with nightmares every day. So I held a little town hall meeting, and the gist of that is I asked a question at the end. I said, all right, everybody raise your hand who wants to see no mountain lions in Texas. Nobody raised their hand. But who wants to see some lions in Texas? Everybody raises their hand. I said, all right, how do we make sure we got some lions in Texas? So that's how I got down this journey of mountain lion regulation about 8 years ago, and have been involved with some of the folks in Texas for mountain lions, as well as people in the State Department and folks that are on the opposition side, like Jeremy and a couple other folks we both know.
Mm-hmm.
But so I guess I'm accidentally serving as a little bit of a bridge between those two communities. And that's a little bit about me and how I got involved with lions.
Yeah.
And I like to hunt lions. Or at least look for them. I mean, that's the coolest thing that ever shows up on my trail cameras.
Yeah.
Like they're hard to see. Seen them horseback, but never have a gun when I'm horseback. So now I got a couple of hounds, and we're spending all summer looking for lions.
That's pretty cool. I'll definitely get into that here in a little bit. Just talking about just some of the hunting itself, because I am curious as somebody who has never had a confirmed lion on their camera, but we'll get into that here in a second. But you mentioned earlier you referenced some mutual company that we both have, and you referred to them as the opposition. What do you mean by that? What do you see the two sides of this mountain lion argument being right now in the state of Texas?
Well, and I can say Cable Smith, he's so public about it. And I hunted elk and mule deer with him. So the opposition, it seems to revolve around this slippery slope argument. Like, this is the first step to, like, basically banning all mountain lion hunting or restricting it in some significant way that inhibits land managers, wildlife managers, livestock growers, their ability to make a living and be sustainable. And I don't think that's true.
Yeah. And I'll willingly kind of put my own name in that camp from a standpoint of at least what I have spoken to up until now, because I mean you've listened to the last show and everything, and I have been kind of spreading the same message from a standpoint, because from my perspective, again, with the education that I have had up till now on the subject, that has been my perception, combined with some other stuff that as far as connections and stuff in the Texas Parks and Wildlife, like we talked about the other day on the phone. But where you're coming from is more of a standpoint of we need some data. We need more information on our mountain lions, and you're not looking at it from a standpoint of going down a slippery slope. You're looking at more of what can we gain from doing things like harvest reporting and stuff like that. So speak to that a little bit as far as your stance on that.
Sure. So I manage a large ranch, and a large part of that is hunting and cattle, both things that could potentially be impacted by lions. And I'm border probably the biggest source population in Presidio County, and it seems like I've got a fair amount of lions. At least now that I know how to set camera traps, I'm getting better at setting camera traps for them. I catch a lot of lions on camera. So one thing I hear a lot from the ranching community is how hard it is to make a living ranching. And some of the ranches I've leased or been on before um, hire contractors, professional trappers to come in there and trap lions to improve their mule deer population, protect cattle, yada yada. And we're talking, tens and thousands of dollars a year. And on the other hand, my connections with the hunting industry, I've got friends in other states that are houndsmen that are charging $5,000 to $10,000 a year. And boy, it looks like a big gap that could be closed. Instead of spending 20 grand a year, why aren't you making 20 grand a year?
Mm-hmm.
Utilizing it as a resource as opposed to a burden. And a large part of that problem is there's not a lot of houndsmen in Texas. It's hard to sell a lion hunt in any state, even um, with snow around. It's largely an on-call situation, or as I've learned during hunting season, if you catch a lion on camera and you've got a houndsman on call, how it works is you would send that picture to the houndsman. Are you free to chase it? And does anybody have a hunter that would like to take a lion? And 9 times out of 10, the stars don't quite align because there's one or two houndsmen out here. But I think that's a fair alternative to indiscriminate trapping, where those traps are set all year long and those bonuses are collected on the number of lion skeletons found. I don't think it's ethical to leave that lion in a trap to die of starvation, dehydration. Um, and it'd be nice to not catch a bunch of black bears, deer, cows, horses, other dogs. And the point that made me drive to Austin for the first time to help pass that trap check regulations, get public comment, was the last hound that I had. I gave to my son just because he fell in love with the dog and figured he'd get bit by a snake before he did. Well, my kid finds him in a snare. After he's been missing for 2 weeks, and he's 10 years old, something at that time, and you can imagine what that's like.
Yeah.
It's still his screensaver on his phone, for God's sake. So it's like, all right, well, I can get on board with a trap check regulation then.
Yeah.
But mandatory harvest reporting is the hill I wanted to die on. It makes the most sense, most feasible, costs almost nothing to do. We see how many lions are getting killed every year. That's a complete data set. We can see if that number goes up or down drastically, and maybe that guides management decisions in the future.
Yeah. No, it makes sense from that stance. And I'm curious what your perspective is as well on the kind of going off of the same argument that I've been a part of. I'll admit it's up till now, and that other individuals like Cable and Jeremy are very vocal about and everything, as far as this is the start of a slippery slope, right? You in your pursuit of mandatory harvest reporting, you don't seem to have concern about that. So I'm curious what alleviates that concern in your mind, as far as, while this may be a good thing, I'm not worried about it progressing to this point, if you will, like some of these guys are saying.
Familiarity with the people and processes. My stepfather, who I work for, is an attorney, so I'm constantly involved in legal issues. I've printed out the entire Parks and Wildlife Code. I know it pretty front and back. I also know a lot of the people on the anti-hunting side, just because when I want to learn an issue, I want to hear both sides of it, from one extreme to the other. And that's the best way I know how to learn something and kind of understand the atmosphere, especially when something contentious. And so I've gotten to know a lot of the folks, and I think maybe that's what drives the slippery slope fear type conspiracy thought, is these both sides don't interact, right? You don't see a lot of anti-hunters having dinner with hunting guides, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I do. So it's they're not very scary to me, and I'm pretty tough to scare.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not a bad thing to have a relationship or a dialogue, I should say, with with those with opposing views. I feel like we're in a world right now where everybody just looks at it as us versus them, whichever side of the fence you choose to be on with that. And and it's not what it used to be as far as politics in general are not really amicable these days. So, and then, from the hunting standpoint, you look at the scenery in other states, Colorado being a big one, and that's an extreme situation compared to Texas right now. But that is obviously the fear is people look at that and they see a commission board made up of individuals with their own agenda or carrying out other people's agendas and stuff, and they worry that, well, if we start to encroach on the freedom that we have to basically do whatever we want with lions right now, for the most part, I mean, with the legal means it take, is from the research I've done, there's no season, there's very little regulations and stuff to them for the most part.
You can kill them with heat-seeking missiles from a helicopter as long as you have an A and B.
Yeah.
At night, by the thousands, if you happen to have that opportunity, for sure. But
Yeah, and people from the good old Lone Star State, they look at that as, well, don't take my freedom away, and but as somebody who through I'll back up, your conversation with me the other day definitely gave me some perspective that I valued, and like I said, I told you the other day, you're not the first person that has contacted me after a podcast episode to give me some additional perspective and everything. And the harvest reporting itself, that tool definitely makes sense in that regard. How, and on that line, how long would it take, in your opinion, to have adequate data, and then what do we do with that data?
just off the top of my head, I think 10 years is, I mean, maybe even less than 5 years. And the only reason I would reduce it to 5 years is because of the popularity of cell cameras. Um, I mean, that's how we do this nowadays, and it's been a game changer. Um, Basically, that's like I just described, a scenario with an outfitter, and how you call when you get a lion on camera. Listen, we're busy as hunting guides. We're looking for aoudad and elk and mule deer. We're not looking down at creek bed tracks and stuff on the road every day. We're looking up and through spot and scopes. So cell cameras is how it's happening nowadays, and you understand that it's becoming increasingly popular. I think now's a good time to, like, well, if we want to create a baseline, everybody's kind of happy, at least in West Texas, with the lion population. We don't have a lot of problems with lions, but we also have a healthy population. So it seems like the best time to start just coming up with some way to monitor lion population.
Yeah.
And harvest reporting is the only way I can think of that's feasible to do for perpetually. You can't, it's tough to fund multi-million-dollar studies every single year to come up with a population estimate, no doubt. But as just a bare minimum participation sticker, like, I think hunters should really get on board with coming up with a way to just monitor that population trend in something that's so scarce as it is. It seems like the easiest way to do that.
Yeah. Do you feel like right now, with the way things have been, minus the mandated harvest reporting, that being something that could have a benefit in the future, do you feel like right now, the way things have been, as far as the freedom that there is to hunt and pursue mountain lions, do you feel like that's working in in favor of, the proper wildlife management, maintaining a healthy lion population while also not letting it get to the point where it is dangerous, if you will.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea because there's zero data to work with.
Makes sense. Fair enough.
We have voluntary reporting. We've had it for 30 years. We just tried implementing it into the app, which for the first 6 months it didn't work on Android. And when you look at Presidio County, I'm almost positive I'm the only one reporting lions, with the exception of the neighbors who told me about lions, and I told them that they should report them to our county biologist just for kicks because it's fun.
Yeah.
And that seems to make up the entire number.
How many lions or lion kills are you a part of right now on an annual basis?
Lion kills, boy, you almost never find them. The last one I found, I saw a lion in hot pursuit of a mule deer at my deer feeder. You got the deer and lion in the frame. I'm like, all right, now mission, find that lion, find the kill for the next 2 days. Did not find the mule deer kill, and I've got thermal drones, all kinds of stuff. Found a hog kill, day 2, put a camera up on it, kill was abandoned. I found one other kill, like I was probably 19. This is 10, 15 years ago, but lion kills are hard to find. So
Yeah.
that's a tough one.
Yeah. I hear you.
But on camera, oh, what do we catch? At least as far as like individuals this year, I've had, let's see, 2 big toms, a mama cat with 3 cubs that were kind of like yearling cubs. I'm going to guess half a dozen, give or take, depending on how well I maintain the batteries and chewed off antennas on my cameras.
Yeah. I got you.
And I shift my cameras over to feeders during like mule deer and elk season, and I don't have like year round cameras dedicated to lion camera sets. It's when hunting season hits and I get desperate, I'm moving cameras around, like making sure I can find all my big bulls and bucks. So
Yeah.
it's coincidence during that time of year.
Well, and I feel like that's and you've kind of hit on it a little bit in passing, but that in Texas that seems to be more of the opportunity at lions. I mean, it is in some regard at a general sense elsewhere as well, but speaking for us here in the Lone Star State, it's it's more of a hunt and a kill of opportunity. It seems like there's not as much designated lion hunting going on, and one thought I've had in preparation for this podcast and after talking to you the other day is, and you can speak to this if you have anything to add, but Colorado, for example, a couple years ago they had Proposition 127 where they were trying to ban lion hunting, and that alone, even though it has nothing to do with Texas, I think especially for the individuals who are tuned into that sort of thing, tuned into what wildlife conservation issues in other states, something like that can definitely put an additional fear in somebody's mind, I guess, when you just start talking about the species in general in your own state. So
Absolutely, and I'm no different than anyone else. And that was timed around the same time we were. This petition was pushed to the commission, and we were talking about that. And so naturally, trying to hear both sides, I called Dan Gates. I said, "Give me your spill. Where are hunters at with it?" And then I called the cats aren't trophies folks and talked to several other people over there. I said, "All right, let me see both sides of the spectrum and try to get an understanding." And well, I was lucky enough that was happening around the same time. I felt like I got a pretty good idea of how that goes down and what both sides were feeling. But I talked to a lot of people on both sides.
yeah.
In fact, the dogs that I've got now are from Colorado.
Yeah, it's definitely something I think that can, for uneducated people, and I'll point to myself, people who are trying to gain more information, but they're outside looking in for the most part, not involved to your extent or anything like that, can certainly place that perception on folks. I
They
want.
weren't scary folks. They were well-meaning. They just,
Mhm.
like my experience with Sierra Club, there were a lot of urban nights and people that didn't spend a lot of time with cats, but they meant well. And I think maybe at the time it felt like that was the best solution that they could come up with. Um, but I never felt like they were being malicious or wanted to end hunting. It's just like, boy, you throw a blanket over something when you don't know the exact way to solve it, especially like I solve it. Like if I want to know about lion hunting and who's killing what and how they're killing whatnot, well, I call the people killing them. And I can see how it might be scary for those folks to call the people killing lions, you know?
Yeah, no, it's perspective for sure. What are so I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on in a little bit more recent news? Because there was an item on the agenda for this last commission meeting on May 28th and on here in Texas, that was going to be for the mandated reporting, I believe. And then on the
Yes.
27th, the day before the meeting, it gets pulled. And there didn't seem to be a whole lot of information disclosed as to some of the why behind it. Is that something you got some information on and you're able to share?
Sure. I was talking to Jeremy the whole way to Austin. And so I get there and I'm 2 or 3 hours in. I went and meet with the girlfriend and her kid and my son shows up and I take him all to Barton Springs, and while I'm waiting for the pool to open for lightning, I get a text from Jeremy. Says, "Oh, it's withdrawn." Um and So I went all the way to Austin, and I don't take days off in the ranch. I was 360 days on the clock last year.
Wow.
But I went all the way to Austin, and 2 hours after I get there, it's withdrawn, and I later find out, um, well, there's some lobbying going on, and it I guess it scared enough people that it was withdrawn. And from what I read today, it may be another year while they kind of rework it. Now, I'll tell you, when I first saw that there was public comment and I read what that rule change looked like, um, I thought it was I thought it wasn't well written, and I'd made some phone calls before then and was hoping to be able to come up with an alternative to propose at that meeting,
Mm-hmm.
specifically related to like the time limits, um, because of the backcountry stuff. There's some ranches, I'm thinking of this scenario where we're in the backcountry ranch with no cell phone signal. You got to go to town to cell phone signal. Guy shoots a cat on his first day of a mule deer hunt, 5-day hunt. He's not burning a day off his mule deer hunt to go get Wi-Fi to report on his phone to meet that 24 hours. So you need alternatives. Like when I catch one on camera, I text it to my county biologist, and then copy and paste coordinates from OnX so that she's got a location on there. And your cell cam pics have time, date, yada yada.
Right.
That's how I do it. I was like, you need a system like that. My dad doesn't use internet, has an old flip phone. I need something for that guy to be able to report a lion if he should ever happen to kill one.
Right.
And I felt like there should have been a little more discussion with hunters and folks that are likely to kill lions. But I don't know if DPWD knows how to make those phone calls or that kind of thing. So I'm hoping to see something in the future that works well for hunters. Because harvest reporting doesn't work unless the people doing the harvesting, it works for them, right?
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that there was some lobbying going on and some stuff in that regard. Do you think that some individuals on the commission were just getting a little concerned with some of the noise and some of the cages rattling a little bit around the slippery slope mentality that this would cause, or was there something else in play?
I don't think they care that much. I think the least amount of controversy that sounds like it's going to be a headache, where a commissioner who serves like, maybe they put 3 or 4 days into each quarterly meeting, is like, all right, this seems like it's going to be a thing, may have backlash. I don't know enough about it. Let's just pull it until we can find out more about it. And so uh, I think it came from Texas Farm Bureau, but that's all it took. Is basically 1 or 2 phone calls from the right people, and that the whole thing was withdrawn. It was that easy to get it pulled.
Yeah. So you mentioned that it's going to probably be another year before it could potentially be back. You talked about some of the adjustments that you hope are in there to accommodate for those scenarios that in the pictures that you painted. But what else is it going to take to get harvest reporting not just back in front of the commission, but also what's it going to take for there to actually be a public perception among hunters that isn't necessarily in a negative light about, well, this is just us turning into Colorado, basically.
I think hunters have got to have participation in it. And I'm getting the 1 year from an article that I read today, where the Jonah Evans was quoted saying, I think it's going to be postponed for a year. That's the best I've got. That's where I'm coming up with a year. But I think hunters have got to step up and make their voices heard. They complain about, well, things are going on behind our back, but they don't participate in the process. And the processes are fairly simple, and pretty clear cut, relatively speaking. But you gotta show up. When you see a public comment and it says, if you have any questions, call Jonah Evans, and here's his email. Well, you got to email the fella and be like, hey, this isn't going to work. Let's tweak it a little bit. And 30 days is a short time frame to review something and come up with a better idea. But you can also reach out to people in your community. Like me, anyone's welcome to reach out to me, and I'm glad to, hassle people for free. I have a lot of alone time driving around the ranch. It's a big ranch.
Yeah, you're volunteering a lot right there. That's a generous offer.
It takes. You'd be surprised at how little effort has been put into what has happened to us so far.
Well, and that's an interesting thing too, and I've talked about this just kind of in a general sense, especially months ago when at a more national scale you had the big public land sale thing going on, and Senator Mike Lee doing his thing and all that kind of stuff, and that was one situation where it showed the power of the people when they actually call and actually email the people that they need to call and email and contact them and make their voices heard and everything like that. And, also I'm of the opinion that so few people do that these days that it doesn't take very many people anymore to call or email about one given issue before the person in that office actually starts kind of paying attention to it and listening, just because there's so few people doing it that if a handful do actually call, they're like, oh, this might actually be something. There might actually be fallout, or I might actually have to listen to what these people have to say. There's something here. So the power.
People can call if they've got a problem with Texas for mountain lions and what they propose. They can just call somebody at Texas for mountain lions and put that forward, because a lot of the stuff that I communicate to them, they've never heard before. No one's ever called them. They're pretty easy to get a hold of, whether it's on Instagram or by phone.
Yeah, everything is more accessible, more attainable than it's ever been before, and I mean that's a good and a bad thing in a general sense. But in this sense, it couldn't be easier to get involved. But people have such short attention spans, and yeah, there's a whole lot of not my problem. There might be even people listening to this show who are like, well, I don't I don't have mountain lions on my place in Texas. I don't hunt mountain lions. Like, what's it matter to me? But in a greater sense, I think it's important for wildlife management and our role as conservationists in the first place to be involved in this sort of stuff. And it's obviously different for your world because you have them on your property, you see them on a regular basis, and
Right.
you're impacted by them. So it is an issue that's near and dear to you. And I mean, I don't want to see Texas go down the slippery slope of Colorado, and I'm not gonna say that, my conversations with you have alleviated that in a general sense, but certainly from this harvest reporting standpoint, I feel like that you have definitely given me a lot of perspective with that personally, as far as, okay, this could be a benefit and a good thing. It's probably something that should happen if done the right way. Do you feel like, and I'm asking just a general question here, just for anybody that's wondering, including myself, do you feel like harvest reporting, if that goes through, let's say you get 5 or 10 years worth of data, and I know a lot depends on that data, but do you feel like it would lead to a mountain lion season in the state of Texas, or mountain lion tags in the state of Texas?
I certainly think, like, in the long run, if there is a problem, and we're talking, probably a minimum of 10 years out, and the people are got to be organized, and a lot of stuff's got to happen. But I think I could see a bag limit maybe at some point. I know they proposed like a 5 a year bag limit in South Texas, which it's crazy to think that someone was opposed to that. Like, can you imagine killing 5 lions a year in Texas?
Yeah, for one
Anybody?
guy, and
It's
again, a
wild.
guy that doesn't hunt them, it does seem like a lot. I get it.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, something like that could be pretty reasonable. Um, I mean, you'd be lucky to kill 1 or 2 lions a year. I mean, I got 4 really experienced hounds, and I can't find one in a month, and I got lions all over this place. According to my cameras, I should be able to find lions, but they're freaking hard to find.
Yeah.
But a bag limit would be, I mean, that's what I see. I don't see a season in Texas necessarily. I talked to some people in the opposition that were in the stakeholder group yesterday, and they said, if you don't want to kill out your mountain lion population, just don't kill females. I can see maybe a restriction on like hunter harvest. Obviously, there's no way to do it with trapping, but not kill females. I mean, who wants to spend that money on a taxidermy bill on a 90-pound female, or pay $15,000 for a hunt and kill a 90-pound female or a cub?
Right.
Like, nobody is going to spend the taxidermy bill on a cub. That would be fine if it were necessary, but I mean, I think we're fine with that on everything else. And not to mention, out here, we're mule deer country. So every place is MLD. If you're a big ranch, you're on MLD. I report every habitat management practice, every aoudad hog I kill as a practice. I report every deer I kill. I have to go through, do spot surveys, which, I mean, getting my ranch hands after a full days of work to pull all-nighters during October is a tough one, doing
Yeah.
spotlight surveys.
Yeah.
We're already pretty familiar with it, so it seems easy enough, right?
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned the MLD and that kind of stuff, but for a single hunter, the five bag limit of 5, for example, again, that seems like if justified, right? If we are years down the road, establishing a mountain lion season, if we are instituting bag limits and stuff for an individual, that seems fine. And you can speak to this a whole lot more in an educated sense than I would be able to. But from an outfitter standpoint, would they be under a different set of rules or stipulations, because they could potentially obviously take more than 5 lions from 5 different people off of their property, I know that would probably be more of a conversation with a local biologist, I would imagine. But you might be able to speak more
So
educated to that.
you've got some exceptions. So like desert bighorn areas. Um, I'm very involved with that. Some of the experts I've talked to say when you're doing a reintroduction, you really got to clean lions out of the area. You don't have to continue to do it nonstop, but initially they're just so vulnerable. There's a scenario, but the state is so heavily involved with that. If you were to ever implement a bag limit, you could obviously in that write in a way for the state to have an exception for those reintroduction areas. The other exception would be sheep and goat ranchers, right? I mean, if there were no large predators, hey, catcher, shut it. Sorry, dogs are barking.
You're good, man.
But you could come up with a depredation permit, especially I think a lot of those, if you're a big sheep and goat ranch, you're probably selling hunts, probably on NLD. We can come up with a way to issue tags past that, which is kind of the whole allure of the MLD program.
Yeah.
Like mule deer, if you're not on MLD, 2 weeks, you got $1. If you're on MLD, you can hunt from September 27th to the end of January. And if somebody wants to kill all 35 of my mule deer tags, my surveys check out. One guy can go in there and kill 35 mule deer tags. So it's not unprecedented. We have a model and a system that works for that. And Texas is doing such a good job with the Texas My Hunt Fish app. States like Colorado don't have an app like that.
Right.
So we're really like ahead of them on there. And I would challenge anybody that wants to understand what harvest reporting looks like, download that Texas My Hunt Fish app, which you probably already have if you have digital license, and go in there and practice like submitting a mountain lion harvest report, and you can see it and you can just cancel at the very end right before you submit it, and you see exactly what it looks like.
Yeah. No, that app is very user friendly, and I remember actually the first year that we were able to do like you were able to tag your deer digitally on the app and everything. My dad saw one of the guys at our lease doing that, and my dad still has paper tags and everything, and it blew his mind. He was like, "Wait, you're just putting duct tape on that deer and writing a number down? Like, what are you doing over there?" So it's come a long way, and a lot is tracked through that for sure. So
I download a PDF for my mule deer tags, and I print them out on regular printer paper and stick them in a Ziploc bag. I mean, anyone could print them out 5 times, but it's really pretty simple.
Yeah, it's very user friendly for sure. I wanted to ask you, and I know you kind of hit on it briefly and in passing. Another thing again. I know that I mentioned some things and some names, some concerns that I had about, individuals that have positions of influence within the Texas Parks and Wildlife. I know that Jeremy has had some posts on social media where he's been very specific with some things. Cable regularly discusses some of this stuff on his show. Can you speak to your perspective on that a little bit more, as far as some of these individuals that have been named, that have been listed as hey, watch out for this person? And I think Jeremy had at least I noticed in one of his posts, he had the phrase the wolves aren't at the gate, they're already inside. It was kind of how he worded one of his social media posts. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first and foremost, Jeremy has been a great resource to me. I may not agree with everything, but he did help me call in my first line out here. And we were talking predator contest issues, and he's supposed to coach me on coyote hunting because I had a coyote problem that I probably created. Jeremy's a great voice. He talks to a lot of people. So the people that they mentioned that they're afraid of. Like Pam Hart. I mean, I should remind people that Pam Hart and her husband donate the most sought after hunt in the Texas youth hunting program, and that's a Davis Mountains trophy elk hunt. And they do aoudad hunts. Like it is the top tier for anyone in the Texas youth hunting program. That's got to be the most like applied for hunt, right? I mean, those hunts where she's at, that's a $20,000 elk hunt. They just donate for kids to come and hunt. She may feel a certain way about carnivores for one way or another. I haven't gone to that discussion that deep, but it, it's hard to call her an anti-hunter when she donates the most sought after hunt in the Texas youth hunting program. Um, but she's a gritty gal. I was impressed by her when I saw her and met her for the first time. But Dr. Harvison, she's more or less retired, not super involved in any of the line research. She's been doing it forever, but I mean, I wouldn't worry about it because she's not actively employed with any research organizations anymore. Ben Ben's a great guy. Created films that exposed that really got a lot of people engaged with wildlife. I think it made people care about wildlife and wildlands, especially urbanites, in the way that nobody's done before. Film has been really a way to connect those people with things that they wouldn't have an opportunity to see because we're a private land state. Um, and he's well intentioned. And as far as like calling him an anti-hunter, he put himself through college guiding aoudad hunts and deer hunts and stuff, just like I did. So I hear a lot of people call him an anti-hunter that have half the experience hunting and have never done it professionally. So I think lions are really, really cool, and we all want to have a chance to like run into a lion. That's like the sexiest, like most mythological creature that we aspire to see in a place where mountain lions exist. And I want my son to like be able to have that same thought that I've had for the last 30 years. Like, man, was that a lion that just crossed the road? Or, oh, let's check that track. Was that a lion there? Like, oh, that's a dream. See a lion. Maybe even take one day. And I want to make sure that opportunity is still around. And I think they all feel that way.
You think they all feel that way, and I'm asking this. I'm not trying to set you up or anything like that. I just know
Maybe not all.
There's been some conversation or some comments made in talking about the Heart specifically about their and I know Jeremy mentioned this in his Facebook post a little bit about some of the opposition between the two of them regarding his predator hunting contests and that kind of stuff. And again, I'm reading this post from Jeremy who was on one side of that interaction, and it definitely gives the perspective that yes, there might be a love for mountain lions or other predators and stuff, but it does seem like to me, outside looking in, that they don't
He doesn't
want
like predator hunting.
Yeah, they don't want people hunting them. So I do
She
believe
don't like
that.
predator hunting, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I believe she doesn't like predator hunting, um, and that's not uncommon. Um, the reason I give her some standing and give her the time and respect is because she owns 30 something thousand acres of ranch land where lions exist out here. That gives her some standing with me, and her participation in the youth hunting program, which after my biological dad died, there's a gap where that was the only way I got to make it out there every season. So I got a lot of respect for people that also participate and volunteer with that program.
Sure.
But yeah, she may not. But this is also Texas, and we also passed a constitutional right to hunt act, which makes it the preferred method of wildlife management. So I think there's a law in place, whether it be the culture or law, that give you a lot of protection to feel like you're safeguarded from having line hunting in Texas.
Yeah.
and who's going to fund it.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Now, I think the constitutional right to hunt and fish, that's something that folks get worried about when they see stuff happening in Colorado without realizing that that's, even though we are not in the same boat as Colorado right now, to a certain extent we never will be, because we have that constitutional right to hunt and fish. And I know Colorado's trying to get it through right now, or working on it, and Dan Gates is at the front of that fight at the moment. But it's we are.
And I don't know how much teeth it has. To full disclaimer, I don't know how much teeth like that has, because I don't think it's ever really been tried before. But it may put people's mind at ease at least a little bit.
Yeah, and I would hope it would, because if you get sometimes something that simple can do that when you're getting caught up in some of the other drama and stuff like that, and having other fears about some of this other stuff. So yeah, I would hope that people would keep that in mind as well. So I want to. I know we've hit on several things and kind of bounced around a little bit on some of these topics, but what haven't we covered yet as far as these lions, as far as the harvest reporting message that you're wanting to share? Is there anything else that you want to mention or ensure that those listening to this podcast hear or understand?
Yeah. So if somebody's got a better idea of how this harvest reporting works, my idea is to employ the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid, right? And just get something rather than nothing. I love Jeremy's ideas about the making some things optional. Like if you want to submit biological data, incentivize it with free entries into Big Time Texas Hunt. That's a great idea. There's a lot of concern over photo submissions because people were worried that file would release like location info. I think a lot of us know there's several ways around that. Whether you screenshot a photo, use VPN, whatever. But giving people the option of how they want to provide data at all. At the bare minimum, we need to know how many lions get killed in Texas and in what county, and whether it's a juvenile, adult, or a kid. And that's something anybody can do with any of that data. I know a lot of folks in Colorado, from the outfitters I hear, love the premolar because they can get all that information back. They say, well, we know exactly how old that lion was, and their clients dig it. But make your voices heard somewhere that matters, that's not just complete opposition, whether it's calling me, calling somebody at Texans for Mountain Lions. You can find them on social media. You can dig up their phone number. They're not hard people to find. Call your the non-game director and come up with a solution. Come up with a model that works. Say like, hey, if we can be on board with mandatory harvest reporting, but this is how we want to report it. This is what's easy, what works for us. Because if the hunters don't come up with a solution, somebody's going to come up with it for them.
Right. No, that's very well said, and I would encourage people to have that mentality with far more than just this mountain lion issue and stuff like that. Like we already mentioned it, but you people have influence, hunters have influence, and they need to be able to use it, because that's how we keep hunting in Texas great. That's how we keep the Texas Parks and Wildlife on the right track, in my opinion, is by showing up and exercising your voice and sharing your opinions, and to your point, being part of that solution. So, very well said.
Yeah, everyone wants to see a lion cross the Sendero.
Yeah. Yeah, it's they're really cool animals, man, and I would I don't know how I would feel if I saw one on our place. I think it would be really cool, and it would also probably freak me out a little bit, because it'd be like, holy cow, that thing's been here this whole time and I had no idea. So
they're creepy. Yeah, they're creepy.
Yeah. So before we wrap it up or anything, I do want to ask you just about the hunting specifically, and just your experience with that, and what you enjoy about it, what you have found extremely challenging about it, perhaps. I know you've already kind of hit on it bits and pieces, just with they're hard to hunt, they're hard to find, but you've been in the game working pretty intimately with these lions for a decade now. What just for those of us who haven't gotten to experience that yet, what can you tell us about hunting these lions?
So I can tell you nowadays, camera traps are how a lot of us are finding them. And I'm fortunate enough to be connected with a lot of the experts in lion research and camera traps and got a lot of good advice. But that advice is very specific to the terrain and environment I'm in.
Yeah.
Cats like to go to water a lot. Um, but boy, paying attention to the cameras is a good one. You can call them in. That's not impossible. It's not done in a lot of other states. You can do that, but I can tell you they're hard to find, and you're gonna if you go hunting for lions 100 days without dogs, you're one day you might be lucky to come across one, and that's like 100 days of calling.
Wow.
They're hard to hunt, and you got to pay attention and learn a lot about lions. Dig into find every study you can find about collar data and really get to know lions. Know their prey and try and learn how they move through habitat by reading those studies and trying to apply what's relevant to your area. And I mean, there's going to be 99% failure, but it is the most fun side quest you can imagine.
Yeah.
And if you're out in West Texas, there's a couple of houndsmen you can get a hold of if you were to be there in time. I would highly suggest that nobody tries to kill like kittens or females if we all want a chance to see lions. Because those are the ones that make more lions.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, and if you have a problem with lions, you know, call somebody. If you think they're killing your deer, call an expert. Call your county biologist, or call somebody out here in West Texas that knows lions, or somebody whose name is on a lion paper about studying lion prey. And just if you're going to go down a rabbit hole, pick up the phone, call some experts, and boy, you'd be surprised how happy they are to give you good information.
Yeah.
And there's experiments going on with ways to treat kill sites right now. I won't talk too much about, but you can reach out to me. Anyone has a question, reach out to me, and I'll glad to help people.
Yeah. Well, certainly appreciate that. Let me ask you this too. Again, this is going to sound like a novice question because it's coming from a novice guy, but as far as short of walking up on a suspected mountain lion kill, are there any other things that really stick out that could tip people off to that they have a mountain lion killing their deer, or they have a mountain lion on their property, something like that, in your experience?
Boy, not really. And I've asked that question to a lot of experts, including, our friend Miss Harvison. And it's the consensus is those lions cover such big country. And we've got one of the largest ranches in Texas, right? That I can't think if I've ever seen the same cat on camera for more than 3 or 4 times within a month or two period. And they're constantly traveling. So it would be a misconception to think you've got a lion camped out on your 2,000-acre ranch. I think that would be a misconception. He may be there for a week or two, but it's not a solvable problem, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's if you're gonna put the lion, it's gonna be a lot of luck involved.
Makes sense, man. They're smart animals for sure. I know that at least. So
I showed you the best line finder I've got there.
Ready to work. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, man, anything you want to add before I got a few questions I ask every first time guest on my show at the very end that I'll hit you with. But before we steer off of mountain lions altogether, anything you want to add at the end here?
No, I would just add, check out the Texas My Hunt Fish app and don't fully submit it, but see what the mountain lion harvest reporting looks like. And I'd love hunters to think of a way that doesn't feel like a problem for them. See if that app looks like it would work for them if they got a problem with it, or not. Because I think a lot of people, if they just check it out, I don't think they'd have a problem with it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, folks should definitely look at it. Well, man, I got three quick questions for you. That like I said, I ask every guest that I have on the show for the first time as we wrap it up. First one is simple. Sometimes it leads to a lot of discussion, though. Gun or bow?
Oh, I had aspirations of killing a 34 plus aoudad or a 190 plus mule deer with my recurve because I've always been a traditional guy since I was 6. I've given up on that pipe dream because arrows are just rattling around. I'm destroying bows and arrows just rattling around the back of my pickup.
Yeah.
Nowhere to hide out here. So if I'm trying to get it done, I'm taking the old 6.5 and pumping them full of lead. Just all 5 rounds.
Gotcha. All 5 rounds. I like it. Awesome. Tell us about one of your favorite hunting memories that you've had in your life up till now.
Easy. It's a story I wrote about, and I got an award from the Texas Outdoor Writers Association scholarship, paid for half a semester, but my first aoudad hunt. And I made not a great shot on it. 550 yards with a 3-9 Leopold on a 243 Model 700, and hiked up the backside of that mountain. Cut to the end of the story after 6 shots and chasing this thing around at about 11 or 12 years old. I'd never given an animal that much fight, and I sat there and watched it die with 1 bullet left, and it gave me so much respect for wildlife and gave me a sense of responsibility as far as ethics whenever I take an animal. But I can tell you with all that, the trick is shoot them a lot. Don't stop shooting until they stop wiggling.
I have never killed one, but I have heard they are extremely resilient. So, all right. Last question. Bucket list hunt. What's a hunt that you, if you got to go on once in your life, you would consider it that bucket list hunt, once in a lifetime opportunity?
Blue sheep in Nepal.
Oh, all right.
Or China.
Very cool. That would be incredible. I think you might be the first guest on our show that's ever said that. So that's awesome. That would be really cool.
Yeah, it's high elevation. I'm a mountain sheep guy.
Yeah. Have you had a lot of sheep hunting opportunities up till now?
I do about 60 to 80 aoudad hunts a year.
Aoudad.
From September till May, I am hunting every single day. Unless we kill out early, I get 1 day off.
That's awesome. I have to say I'm a little jealous with that. When that's not just incredible time in the outdoors and incredible time hunting, but the amount of experience that you gain with that much time in the woods or that much time pursuing one creature and stuff. It's pretty remarkable. So it's yeah, little jealous with that. So that's awesome.
Well, now you know how to find me if you need to do it.
Yeah, for sure. I got your number now. Well, man, I really appreciate you taking the time and taking around an hour this evening to talk to us about your perspective on some of this mountain lion stuff going on in Texas. Appreciate you reaching out to me and giving me some additional insight that I didn't have before. Very grateful for that. And this is definitely an issue and an item that I don't intend to have die with this show necessarily, or this to be the last episode. There's still some guests that I would like to have on this show to discuss and get different perspectives and give people out there listening as much information as possible. And I really appreciate you being a part of that and sharing what's relevant and important to you on this issue. So
Cool. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Tell folks where they can find you if they do want to reach out, as you've mentioned several times, and pick your brain or ask questions or whatever it might be.
The best place to reach out to me, where I'll get a hold of you within a week or so, is Instagram. I think my handle is B Shepherd Buchanan. I check my email once a week, like miss text, all that stuff. But if you send me a DM on Instagram, that one day I sit down and answer them all, I'll get back to you. I think it's B Shepherd Buchanan on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Brandt. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you.
Guys, appreciate y'all listening. Hope y'all took something away from this. Reach out to Brandt if you have any questions. And with that, we're going to wrap this one up. We'll be back with you guys again next week for another episode. Catch y'all then.